Hello and welcome to GreenFleet Talks. My name is Kate Armitage and I'm your host for our discussion today. I'm delighted to be joined by Terry Rayner, Commercial Director at Locks for Vans. Terry, nice to meet you.
Hi Kate, yeah, good to meet you.
Good, nice to speak. Terry, we're talking about van security today, which is a brand new topic for me. But a quick Google search told me that thefts from vans are increasing dramatically in recent months. And this has serious cost implications in both time and equipment for fleet operators.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. It's unfortunately a growing industry. I think the economics of what we face today have pushed many individuals into that space where certainly the changes in some of the ways we retail and the behaviours around have meant that there's a lot more goods travelling around in vans these days. There's a lot more content in the back of a van than there ever was before, and a lot more vans on the road. So therefore, some people see this as easy pickings. And a real opportunity to gain some sort of monetary advantage by attacking a van. So it's a shame. It's just a fact of life, unfortunately. So our industry and our business is grown around the whole security of vans. We're in fact in a couple of months' time we're 20 years old as a company, and the complete focus has always been on van security, whether that's locks or devices or shields or whatever, to prevent or slow down the would-be criminal to get into the van. So this is not necessarily about the van being taken away, it's getting into the back of the van, and preventing that action, really. So that's what the business is about.
Yeah, I get that. And of course, if your tools, for example, have been taken, then that has a serious impact on your entire business.
It does. I mean, there's a few things there. There's for the tradesman, the single tradesman, there's that emotional attachment. It could be their father's tools or their grandfather's tools or something that's handed down, and there's a huge emotional attachment. The reality is with most that there's a huge monetary value in tools in the back of a van. And not only is it disruptive in terms of having to replace those tools, but it's actually the disruption in the business and the service that they're providing. So if they were expecting to come to your place and put a new bathroom in that afternoon, and now they're not coming because they've lost all their tools, you're disadvantaged as well as them. So it has a massive impact.
Yeah, big knock-on effect.
Yeah, very much.
And so, Terry, can you give me an idea of the type of thefts that we're talking about here in terms of the attacks themselves?
Yeah.
And how is Locks for Vans keeping ahead of those attacks?
Yes, it's very the industry of attack is very opportunist, really. It's spotting the right van in the right place at the right time, and then often the attack is swift but very accurate. And so what do I mean by that? So many vans have got livery on the side of them, displaying what business that van's in. So immediately the would-be attacker has got a fair idea of the content of the back of that van. If that van's not parked in a secure location or down a dark alley or a remote location, it's vulnerable all of a sudden. And a quick, accurate puncher into the side of that vehicle with known information about where the manufacturer's locks are on that vehicle, they can gain access very quickly. So often we find a vehicle has had a puncher attack in the side of the vehicle or side of the door with a screwdriver, with a heavy screwdriver, and have just punctured in at exactly the right place that would release the manufacturer's lock and gain them access to that vehicle. And often this is over in seconds. So that is a very, very common attack. And that attack often renders the vehicle broken or the locks unusable. So suddenly that vehicle's off the road. If there's a lot of damage, that could be a new replacement door, which is a big cost. and obviously the inevitable loss of the contents of the vehicle inside. Often when we speak to people that are having to have extra devices attached to their vehicle in the aftermarket, they've only left their van for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's all it takes for the vehicle to be spotted and attacked.
So from what you've said, Terry, as I understand it, you may have a thief or an attacker who actually has a favorite type of van, one that they know exactly how to enter.
A favorite type, it could be a certain model, it could be a certain attack position, and they're very accurate. So our business is divided into two, really. One is the aftermarket, where the horse has already bolted, the attack's already happened, and we would sell repair plates into the market to effectively mask where the attack position happened, and replace the locks with a higher security lock that's got a shield around it and is very difficult to get into. So therefore, we've tidied up that vehicle, got them back on the road, and give them a level of security again to carry on their business. But the attack's already happened. The damage has already been done. The contents of the vehicle have already been lost. The other half of our business is in that preventative space, where we know where those attacks are happening on those vehicles. So when fleets are bringing new vehicles to the market, we can talk to them in advance of those vehicles going on the road and advise them where they need extra shielding to be placed. Now, whether that's external or internal or both, just to give them that extra level of protection. So we sort of use all that data in the aftermarket to advise the new registrations market, but it is a constant flow of information, and it's a constant change of data when things mature. So the attack may take a different location, so we have to update the size of our shields, or indeed the manufacturers, as is their right, they may just change the design of a door. And that may not be even noticeable to anyone because they've suddenly decided to change a stiffening point inside the door that's not visible to anyone. So it's just a running change. And now that door, the dynamics of that door are different and the attack position is different.
So you've got your work cut out then, all these new vans that are coming to market, knowing where those weak points are is
absolutely,
a lot
they're very, very busy team here. I think in the last 12 months, we've had new to the market. I think it's been 18 new vans to the market, forgetting all the extra additions and changes that have been made to the configuration of the vans over time. So we're constantly got vans in our workshop and working on development for those and trying to stay ahead.
Yeah. Okay, very interesting. Now, as I understand it, Terry, you have created the first Thatcham accredited van alarm in the UK that works alongside your other locking systems. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, it's been a new venture for us. So this is something that's materialised over the last year, and we actually previewed it at the CV show in Birmingham a couple of months ago, and it's actually gone live this week, in fact. Up until now, the car market has led vehicle alarms. Vehicle alarms have been around in the car market for decades, but those alarms have been adopted into the van market, but on a sort of one size fits all. So there's been no real development work on creating an alarm and the accessories of that alarm that actually completely meet the needs of a van driver. And what do I mean by that? It's all about securing and alarming that load space in the back of the van. So rather than have car-derived alarm equipment, we've made things that are very bespoke to the van market. And you will know, or anyone would know that looks at vans, all vans come in different shapes and sizes. So the trick here is that we have bespoke bracketry on all of our popular makes of vehicles on the road. So if it's a Mercedes Sprinter or a Transit Custom or a Citroen Berlingo, they can have different brackets, they can have different requirements, and different locations where sensors could be put in the back of the van. So I talked before about puncher attacks on the side of the vehicle. One of the other common attacks is when the side load door is actually pulled down away from the vehicle, and it's called a peel and steal. So literally the door is bent back and the attacker gets into the vehicle. It's unfortunately a very common attack. So we've created devices, anti-peel device that prevents that door being pulled down from the top.
Right.
But we've also developed a sensor with the alarm that at the slightest movement of the door at the top of the side load door away from the body, before any of the door is deformed, the alarm will go off. And that actually prevents any damage happening to the car. And this huge, very loud, I think it's 110 decibel sirens that go off in the vehicle will deter anyone from getting into that vehicle, or indeed it will alert any passers-by to that vehicle's being attacked.
Good. Good. Well, someone's going to get a shock then, aren't they?
Very much so. And the other piece we've changed is that most alarms are wired. So there's wires are threaded throughout the vehicle to get to those vulnerable points on the vehicle. All our sensors are wireless. So most commercial vehicles would have racking or some bespoke equipment in the back of them to suit the business. So there is no standard position. So we've enabled sensors to be positioned wherever they can to accommodate the racking and the equipment that's in the back of the vehicle as well.
Great. So if I understand that correctly, then when a vehicle is delivered, if it's got the racking, you can still retrofit this alarm system.
Exactly that. One of the other unique pieces as well, and this doesn't happen with many vehicles, but you get a percentage of commercial vehicles that will have a trailer behind them or towing some sort of equipment. The wireless capability of our alarm will actually incorporate the trailer as well. So we can have sensors on the trailer that will say if that trailer is uncoupled when it shouldn't have been, or something's removed from that trailer, or that trailer's attacked, the alarm will go off as well. And with twin alarms, one in the load area, which acts as like a big boom base, and one under the bonnet as well, that makes a hell of a noise.
Good.
So the combination of that with our security devices, we can mold the two together to create this sort of ultimate deterrent, really. And you can just have an alarm, or you can have the security devices, or both. So yeah, we've got good hopes for this. And from the early responses we've had from the market already, it's something that the market was looking for. And getting that Thatcham approval, that has been the only alarm that's dedicated to commercial vehicles, that's a big bonus to us. And
usually, I might be wrong, but that Thatcham, quite often that data is interpreted by insurers and gives a positive.
We would certainly like to think so. Yeah. It's never guaranteed.
No, I know.
but certainly, often 5, 10, or even 15% discount can be achieved. And in all honesty, that's the bonus. Yeah. I think mostly the insurance companies look at the behaviour of the insuree, and if that insuree has got alarms and security devices on their products, they're looked at more favourably generally. Yeah. So they become a lower risk. So it can be nothing but positive as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, I agree. So one thing I'm very interested in, Terry, is how do you test these alarms?
Then that's a bit of a secret, really. However, testing is a big part of what we do. If you think we could sell into markets, well, in fact, even in the UK, into arid, very dry parts of the country, or very wet, very cold parts of the country. If I take probably Bournemouth Beach at the moment, where there'll be perhaps RNLI vehicles going up and down the beach, securing that and making sure everyone's okay. That will be in a very dusty, very sandy environment, where we could have a roll-on, roll-off ferry provider up in the Highlands and Islands of Scotland, where it's very salty and very wet and largely damp. And in all those instances, our locks need to work and operate correctly. So we've actually invested in our own environmental lab here at Locks for Vans, where we can test for all of those different environmental conditions and make sure that any product that leaves this factory will operate properly in those conditions. Considering as well, some of our business goes to the Nordics, so we can be operating in temperatures as minus 40. Some of our products go to the Middle East, and they could be plus 40. So there's a huge temperature range that we expect these products to survive in. And unlike some other products, our devices are largely on the outside of the vehicle, so they need to be as protected and as resilient to the weather as the bodywork of the vehicle itself.
Yeah.
And so it needs to be in good condition in years to come. The other piece, though, and that's the most fundamental, it's great if it looks fine, but it's also got to work. And we spend a lot of time testing the strength of our products to make sure that they'll stand up to those attacks. So there's a lot of effort has gone into simulation testing in the last couple of years. And I'll give you an example that we've, I mentioned anti-peel earlier on, which stops the top of the door being peeled back. We've got an anti-peel device that fits between the top of the door and the door frame. And we knew that adds extra strength to the door, would stop it being peeled back. However, to test that properly in real life, you'd end up destroying a lot of doors and a lot of vehicles. And so we put that through simulation testing, computer-aided design, loaded it all in, and we were able to show how many Newton meters of strength it would take to actually move that door with our device on, with and without. And in that instance, we were able to convert that into manpower. So we know that it would take 10 men it would take 10 men's effort to peel a door back with our anti-peel on. Now, in all honesty, if 10 men are going to attack one door on a van, I think I'd just give them the keys.
Yeah,
really.
It doesn't sound like a quick attack anymore.
It's not an opportunist attack.
No.
So, but simulation testing helps us check that we're what we say we are, and that we're good and we're strong, and the products are capable. So we spend a lot of time in that space, which does slow down the bringing things to market at times, because whilst we want to be nimble and speedy and get things out there, we also need to make sure that they're going to work.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's such an important part of the integrity of the product.
Absolutely.
Terry, it wouldn't be a podcast with Kate Armitage if I didn't ask about electric vehicles.
Yeah.
Because, specifically electric vans, we're seeing more of them coming on the roads now, and whilst in many respects they look just the same as a petrol or diesel vehicle, they are different in many ways. So what challenges have you faced with your products translating to the electric vehicle market?
Lots. Absolutely lots. I think that it sort of boils down to two or three things, really. Weight is the enemy of all commercial vehicles, but it's even more the enemy of an electric vehicle, because there's a huge amount of weight being added through the batteries, and everyone's struggling to get the range, so no one wants to add weight. So as a result, lots of the manufacturers are starting to use either completely composite bodies or partially composite bodies, and that then changes the dynamic for us. And I'll give you an example. We've just spent a lot of time developing devices for the ID Buzz. Fabulous van, really impressed with it, loved the styling, but gosh, that was an interesting exercise. When the tailgate and the barn doors are all made of a composite material, we're expecting our steel products to latch into steel and not composite. So we're having to find other parts of that bodywork where we can take our latches and devices back to, so deeper into the body itself, back to the shell, just to give those rigid points. Or if we can't do that, to get a sandwich between the composite and perhaps a light metal plate to give it that rigidity again. And again, if we go back to your anyone's house, it's the difference between a plasterboarded wall and which has got nothing behind it, and a solid wall of an old cottage, you know. And you think of the raw plugs that you'd have to put in a plasterboard wall to retain your picture on the wall versus the raw plug you'd put into that brick wall elsewhere. So, and that's the fundamental difference between the two. We're having to find different anchor points, different ways of retaining the product. So that's a big thing from us in terms of understanding how we deal with that. Really.
And presumably all of your engineers who do the fitting have to be trained, and do they need different equipment?
Oh, completely. Yeah. I mean, it's thrown everything up in the air, really.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot at the moment. There's still a lot of traditional product being attached to electric vans and composite materials. However, that's moving into different materials itself. So, you know, looking at plastics, we've got a whole 3D printer network here that we use to create prototypes and the like, but we can see more 3D printing with composite materials itself that are high strength to apply to those composite vehicles. So
because you need to lightweight your equipment.
Absolutely.
As well. Yeah.
There's no good having a lightweight vehicle with a heavyweight security device on it, because it's counterproductive. The other bit, though, and you perhaps alluded to this earlier on, some of these vehicles, ID Buzz accepted perhaps, but some of the vehicles just look the same. The E-Transit or E-Custom will look the same, but the components are different. They're in different places. There are different components. And therefore, those traditional vulnerabilities on a steel-based vehicle with a combustion engine in it, those vulnerable places and vulnerable components are in a different place on electric vehicles.
Okay.
And that's the bit we're having to learn. You know, suddenly you've got high-value batteries on that vehicle. Suddenly you've got wiring in different places that you expect on other vehicles. So there is a huge learning curve happening with the industry. And unfortunately, some of those vulnerabilities will be only discovered when we've got more of those vans on the road. But a lot of it is us spending time standing around those vehicles, as we did with the ID Buzz, and saying, how would we attack that?
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, unfortunately, the attackers are doing exactly the same thing.
Very much so. And it's something, and you say, if you've been on our website or anything, you'll see, we talk in general terms about what we do, but we don't talk in definite terms. There'll be general photographs of some of our products, but you won't see the locations of them. And we try and keep that information between us and the client, rather than being in the open forum. But you know, it's very difficult to maintain it. So the different materials, the weight, and the change of configuration of the components brings with it lots of challenges that keeps the team here late into the evenings, really. But all good, because it then gets those creative juices going from the team, and proud of the outcome. And as I say, at the CV show, we had an ID Buzz on the stand, and that attracted a lot of attention through what we managed to achieve on that vehicle, and many more to come.
It created a buzz, Terry.
Absolutely, I like what you did there.
And it's great to hear that you're innovating and staying ahead of the curve. Terry, it has been a pleasure speaking to you today. That is about all we've got time for. Thank you to Locks for Vans for joining GreenFleet Talks, and thank you for watching. Please tune in to GF365 again soon.